as a client now, my needs are beyond that. I'll be looking at making better decisions or expectation changes from that product. Definitely that is where, tech will play a major role to, having a edge across the competition. The team will have to upgrade their sim at an rapid pace to keep up with these changes and are working. I think so that inherently helps the team to keep updated. And again, in a financial segment, that impact cannot be transferred to the customer. So the way we work is how we keep ourselves updated. Clients are a core part of what we do here. Their feedback, their interaction is very critical for us, and something that has to be a core part of what we do. We meant to incorporating learning in every day is the best way to move forward.
Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast. I am your host Jaswinder, along with a very special guest, Mr. Yogesh Yadav, who is a Chief Technology Officer at Choice Group. So Yogesh, I am really excited to have you here, and thank you for making this podcast happen. I just wanted to say this before we start this podcast. So here comes my first question. How much tech do you think can differentiate a product wherein most of the features are commoditized? I mean, I have to put it into other words. There are services like mutual funds and insurance. I feel most of the product features are very much standardized. Almost every competitor, almost every product has the same thing. So, what do you think? How tech will play a major role, into that gaining that competitive edge?
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Jaswinder, for having me here. And I think so this is a great initiative that we have started with to discuss on quite a lot of topics in the format of podcast. Coming back to your question, wherein we are seeing tech has really enabled us to commoditize features that are generally used by customers or clients. So, you can refer to we can see the mobile industry, wherein Apple started with the smartphone revolution, but after that, in just few years, you saw quite a lot of competition coming in, copying that same format maybe in a different flavor, but it just took few years for commoditizing that particular smartphone industry, standardizing it across the globe. So, but as an user, when I started using that product, the primary purpose definitely was communication when it comes to mobile devices. But today, if you see, you won't buy a device just so that you have a good, maybe an 5G or 4G connection. It's more about how good the screen is, or maybe how good the camera is. So, where requirement of that product has evolved as you have used it, right? So for that applies to any industry. So if we get into the fintech industry, you have products that enable users to place trades or buy a mutual fund or insurance online. In the last 2 or 3 years, we're seeing that, and almost all the companies or competition has been able to replicate it for their clients. But as a client now, my needs are beyond that. I'll be looking at making better decisions when I'm buying something, right? Better visibility when I'm buying something. And that is where you see the innovation or competition happening. So you won't see maybe new ways to place orders, but better way to decide when to place an order and how to place an order, right? That is where I feel as an tech or as an industry, there'll be a competition to, capture maximum clientele or customers in the way we enable them or make them better, enable them to make better decisions. I think so.
So you mean as long as you're able to understand what your client needs and you're able to deliver it,
Yes.
that I think.
Yes, exactly. So as the client needs changes or expectation changes from that product, definitely that is where, tech will play a major role to, having a edge across the competition.
So what's your take on various AI products like ChatGPT, Bard, etc.? Or what do you think as an organization, what changes will you be doing with the emergence of these AI products?
I think so. These products, I think so. They are a great impact. You can see already that these are quite trending on the internet right now. So, as a product, definitely they are revolutionary. But the main thing I, feel is the evolution of these products, right? And if you ask these things like a few years back, how AI would evolve, it would, we would look at it as a traditional technology that would take few years to get to a level wherein you can actually get a benefit out of it. But right now, looking at these products and how fast they are evolving, I think so that is the most surprising part about this thing. Like no one can predict what you would see in these products in next 6 months or a year, right? And how will this impact our organization or the way we work? Definitely, we'll see usage of these products in our day-to-day working. The team will have to upgrade their sim at a rapid pace and keep up with these changes and identify new use cases and wherein these will actually help us as well as our customers. If I'm a mutual fund investor, I have to look at what are the funds, how they are performing, what is the outlook, and all those things. So if I have to do that research, I have to understand all those nuances about those things. And maybe looking at how these technologies are evolved, I can see that AI can really help the clientele or the users to summarize this information in a shorter format, and they will be able to understand it much easier than what it is right now.
But again, it becomes very tricky. कि कितना use करना, because I feel that there are a lot of questions which have arisen. कि if you're using ChatGPT, you will be able to replace certain people, certain resources. Okay. But I personally feel if I am a content writer, so let's just take example of a content writer, because I feel like ChatGPT gives you really nice copies and things like that. So you can't really replace, according to me, you can't really replace a human and out of AI. I feel if I have to write something, I'm going to write it with my heart, something which AI will never be able to do. So that's what I want to understand your take on it. Do you think will it be able to replace human?
If you've seen any evolution of any technology that's been, so you had robotics that revolutionized industrial output. So when they came out, of course, the first thought was, will they replace all the workers on the assembly line, right? So definitely any technology that comes in would replace some part of the human efforts that's supported. So we can look at something that is repetitive, that is not really, like you said, if you want to create a content that actually needs to have an heart in it and is intended to a particular audience. Definitely you cannot replace it with AI generated content, but there are many use cases wherein you don't need to have that much of effort in the content, right? It could be general documentation related to your product, right? That is wherein you don't really need to put that thought, right? But you need to get that onto the paper, and you to have to document those things. So that is where I feel it will enable the content writer to put the efforts where it is required rather than replacing him completely, right? So it would definitely empower all these people that we feel would be replaced. So, but again, the thought process or the heart that comes with a team would definitely have an impact, but that would be focused toward more critical and important tasks rather than the basic tasks.
So moral of the story is technologies are meant to empower human and not really replace them.
I agree.
Talking about the fintech industry, what do you think? What AI products are likely to be invented? Or
so again, like I said, as a client, the immediate use case that I see is ChatGPT or these technologies helping all these clients to summarize all the technical information of the stock market across so many segments in a much more bite-sized and summarized way, and is easier to understand. So that is where I feel I see an immediate use case, and I think so. We had seen that in a demo of ChatGPT as well in the recent, I think, the fourth version that came in. So that is one of the things, and again, it's just the start.
since we have been discussing a lot about the AI and trends and technologies, I want to understand, you being the CTO, being the leader, what initiatives do you take so that your team is updated, is very much up with all the trends, with the technology happening, to keep up with the market requirements?
For me, in our organization, the way we work, like for example, we focus on, we call it a goal oriented working, right? So I think so the way we have structured our working enforces, or you can say basically pushes the team to explore new things. So what do I mean by goal oriented? What we generally do is, for any team that works on any particular task, so it's not just you get a list of tasks that you have to do. It is more about what you're trying to achieve doing those tasks. So it is a goal that we want to achieve as a team, right? And that goal basically would mean you would have to explore new things, and you'll have to come up with new things to make sure you achieve it in the shortest possible time. And that is where I think so each department or each team member with his own unique skill set would be put in a position wherein he likes to explore things which can basically helps him achieve that goal in a shorter time, right? So the way we are structured are working. I think so that inherently helps the team to keep updated. And again, as you said, you have new technologies that are coming in, and as a team, we try to have discussion on those things that if that can really help us achieve that goals, right? So if we have chat gpt and there's a risk of having an impact on your product, and when you are in a financial segment, that impact cannot be transferred to the customer. So it is very critical whenever you're using new technologies, you use it in a way wherein it does not impact the ultimate users. And again, the same structure that we follow helps us experiment with new technology, but again avoid having any impact to our customer. So and the way we work is how we keep ourselves updated.
So you just mentioned about goal-oriented working. I want to understand what for you is most important, process or the product deliverability. I mean, if you set up a new process, ultimately both of these things are connected. It is going to be just to facilitate the other. So when you introduce a new process, there is costing involved, there is resources, there is time, effort, etc., which ultimately will also affect the timeline of the product deliverability. I want to understand your take on it, according to you, which is the most important.
So it depends how you look at it, right? So many a times, even as a developer or a person working in an organization, I look at process as an overhead, right? And look at it, that adds time to what I can do. But the thing is, key, what I feel is process actually helps you reduce the time that you take to deliver, right? It would sound counterintuitive, but like if I'm a developer, and for me, writing a code is second nature. So I can just write my code and publish it, and you can see the results. But what I want is you should comment your course. You should have some kind of document to refer back to. Now, definitely for that time, it is very easy to just code and deliver. But somewhere down the line, when you want to refer back to that particular piece of code, you'll be spending much more time to understand that code rather than what you would have spent just documenting it, right? So in the long term, if you don't have a process, you'll be definitely spending more time in doing what you do every day rather than when you have this process in place. And of course, as an organization, it is very critical we balance that. Again, having quite a lot of unnecessary processes would definitely slow us down. But the trick is to know which process would help you in the long run, right? So for us, we are in the financial markets, and the product that we do is very critical. And running this product or developing this product without processes is a very risky thing, right? And it could have a huge impact, a financial impact on the customer. So I think process is critical in terms when you're working on critical products. But also, it is not that it would hamper your speed or the quality of work. It would actually help you reduce the time that you spend on debugging a thing or referring back to those things when you actually could be spending your time on innovation.
Before we conclude our podcast, any message you want to give our viewers, our clients, and your employees?
For clients, I would say clients are a core part of what we do here. Their feedback, their interaction is very critical for us. And, I would like to encourage all the clients to interact with us as much as possible, share their feedbacks. So, we can keep improving our product. For the team, I would suggest learning is something that has to be a core part of what we do. And we need to understand how every day that we do, we learn from it, right? What is the feedback loop? We can set up that loop just to know like what we are doing and what's the impact of those things. So that I think so incorporating learning in your everyday is the best way to move forward.
Thank you, Yogesh. It was a lovely conversation.
Thank you, Jaswinder, for having me on this podcast.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast and stay tuned for more such awesome content.